Hello and welcome to Sharon Local History. Welcome to Sharon, Massachusetts. In this video, I will include about 10 images which are old postcards of Sharon from about 1900s to 1950s. There is no order. These were published in the Sharon Advocate. So this is part 11 and that's the last video of these black and white postcards. So in this picture, all of you probably recognized Post Office Square. The postcard was marked 1948 and you can see angle parking before we had traffic lights. So all the drivers had to keep to the right. You can see the island on the right side with the light. So on the left side, that's the Dennett block, McKay's paper store. In the middle, it's the Bryant store that was as well a post office, and then at some point it was economic store and the Sharon Town Club, and eventually a thrift store, Mrs. Hitchens thrift store. Now it is Bank of America. This place is called, as you can read yourself, Stewart and Kincaid, and it was a popular grocery store located in the Dennett block. That's the building on the left side you saw on the previous picture. It sold prime meats, vegetables, fruits, poultry, fresh baked goods. They also offered free delivery. The business operated from about 1920s to 1930s. Unfortunately, they closed following a fire. Later, Sharon Cash Market opened on the left side of the store, and the First National store was on the right side. You may know the place as Coriander today. So this house was located on 66 South Main Street. That's where the current CVS parking lot is. It was actually offices of Sharon Advocate, or a very popular and probably longer serving newspaper in Sharon. It was also residence of Mr. and Mrs. E. Gilmore Richards, and later their daughter Esther, who married Walter Reeve, and they had son Richard. The Richards and Reeve families were well-known publishers of the Sharon Advocate. In 1956, their own printing plant was constructed in the area at the rear of the house. As I mentioned, the property was eventually sold and demolished, and we have a CVS parking lot there now. This picture is from the hurricane in September 1938. You can see the destruction that happened here in Sharon, and you are looking at a view from basically High Street to North Main Street. So the car is on North Main Street heading towards Cobb's Corner. By the way, many trees were uprooted and the wires were pulled down through the town of Sharon. So this is a photograph of Deming's camp that was on the southern shore of Lake Massapoag. Reverend Minor T. Deming owned and operated the Boston Seashore Home for Boys, which was large property, large building that used to be on Lakeview Street from late 1800s to early 1900s. This is the site known more recently as Horizons for Youth or the Everwood Camp. The property was purchased by the town and it's being leased. This is the old Massachusetts Audubon Society's bird sanctuary on Moose Hill Street. It operated from 1920s and many years later it closed down. The building is still owned by Audubon. It is, I think, 300 Moose Hill Street now. The present sanctuary building is on the intersection of Moose Hill Street and Moose Hill Parkway. This was a large store, Long Brothers store. Meats and groceries could be purchased at this store. It was located on East Chestnut Street, right opposite Bradford Avenue. The second floor has been used as the home of the local Oddfellows Lodge, and their sister group, the Deborah Sampson Lodge of Rebecca's. The upstairs area has also been used for many years as a dance studio. In more recent years, the main floor was the site of two popular restaurants, Laners and Whitney's, and eventually it was converted to offices, and that's what it's serving as now. However, it'll be demolished soon to create room for condominiums. This is one of the more popular pictures of the beach. So imagine you are standing right at the memorial on the northern side of the beach. There were beautiful willow trees. Those boats were for rent, and eventually what you see on the right side, it looks like a path, but that actually was beach road that was eventually moved to the current location. So this is a really cool picture, and it is still standing, however you will not recognize it. It is the residence of Deacon Benjamin Fairbanks. It was located on Furnace Street, not too far from the Gavin's Pond. It was actually right above the dam. The house was constructed in 1700s, one of the oldest houses in Sharon, and the land belonged to Deacon Fairbanks as well as the old Tottenham furnace. What is not visible is the furnace that used to be right on the dam, kind of behind the, I guess it's called flume, at the Gavin's Pond. So when you walk there, I would like you to kind of try to soak in the history. This is where cannon was cast, and it was used in the Revolutionary War, as well as cannonballs, and we know for a fact now that they were involved during the war or used during the war. And this property is on National Register of Historic Places. The house that's there now on Furnace Road, it's a very private property, and it is property owned by a Sharon resident. So please respect it and don't wander around the property. Thank you. Actually, I have this picture too. So these are the additional properties or buildings rather at the Deacon Fairbanks property. It's a blacksmith shop and a barn and other outbuildings that were situated on Furnace Street. An archaeological dig in 1984 by members of the Sharon Historical Society, assisted by archaeologists from Boston University, confirmed that the Tottenham furnace had truly existed during Revolutionary War time, when they found pieces of molds used to cast the cannon at this site. The Tottenham furnace site has been placed on the National Register of Historic Places. This building was a barber shop, Sydney Hall barber shop. It was also antique shop with apartments upstairs. It used to be on South Main Street, just across from the current Wilbur School apartments. And eventually this property was also demolished, and that's where the current CVS is. So I just showed you few minutes ago the Sharon Advocate building. It was next to one another. So this building was on 20 South Main Street. During 1930s, this house was home of Mrs. Hadley Matthews and her two kids, Phyllis and Alfred. In the 1940s, Mrs. Milred Bolan and her family came to live there. For several years, Mrs. Bolan operated lending library in one room of the house. However, eventually this property was purchased by the First Baptist Church of Sharon. The house was demolished and they have a parking lot there now. So I don't have much time, but I will include few garages. So this is Center Garage. It was also called Moody's Garage. It was located on 18 to 20 Billing Street. It was owned and operated by Bill Stratham Sr. from 1946 to 1960s. And it was very active business for repairing cars, selling gasoline and tires. Mr. Stratham also had a fleet of taxis, and you can see them in the background behind the gas pump. This site is now a parking lot. This property is Taylor's Garage. Taylor's Garage was located on the corner of South Main Street and Station Street. It is now a bank. And as you can see on the sign, Chevrolet cars, Mobil gas were sold here. They were also repairing cars. Fun fact, several of the employees were on-call firefighters. So whenever the fire alarm at the station rang, they all ran to the fire station and they helped wherever needed. The garage was owned over the years by 3 generations of the Taylor family: James, son Arthur J., and grandson Arthur F. And I have one more garage. So this is Robbie and Wilton. The Ford dealership was located at 88 Pond Street at the corner of Tolman Street around about 1960s. The building was originally built in the 1920s by Poirier brothers. They made their own concrete blocks to construct the site as a garage to repair the cars. Subsequent garage owners were Bob Baker, Arthur Scott, and Trout brothers Bill and Irving. It eventually became Dickerman Dental Laboratory, then CVS Pharmacy. However, a heavy snowstorm caused the roof to collapse, and the CVS closed, eventually moved where we have it now on South Main Street. However, the building was rebuilt and it serves as offices now. Okay, and this is the last picture. These are cottages in the pines of Sunset Lodge. So Sunset Lodge was a hotel where the current community center is. You also heard the name like Massapoag. The property basically burned a few times and was rebuilt, and now it's community center. So these little houses or cottages were on the grounds of the lodge, Sunset Lodge, overlooking Lake Massapoag. The cottages were used by families. However, they use as amenities, main amenities, the modern brick Sunset Lodge that was built in 1932. There were very large, airy rooms, each with private bathroom. Sunset Lodge was very popular for people to come from the city because Sharon was the healthiest town in New England. Other recreational facilities including bathing on the private beach, boating, fishing, tennis, and handball. I hope you enjoyed this and thank you for watching Sharon Local History.